What's up, everybody? I'm Jack Slater, aka the Comic Outlaw. Yeah! Oh, man. And I hope you're ready, because we're going to do another review. Yes, and I'm bringing it live into you. Well, maybe not live. It depends on when you're watching this. Because you know how the internet is. Anyways. Now, if you watch the show, you'll know that I'm not the biggest fan of Big Blue or Superman or Clark Kent or whatever the hell you want to call him. And since there are, at this point in time, two different Superman, Jonathan Kent and Clark Kent, this is mostly directed towards Clark Kent. I've never been the biggest Superman fan. I'm Team Batman myself, but now I cover Elseworlds, What Ifs, and the Elseworlds I have certain issues with. Some of them are really good, some of them are really bad. But this is one of the stories that was actually really good, and then I was excited about this when it first came out. Because this told a very interesting story about Superman. Fascinating. It's called Superman Red Sun. Yes, indeed, Superman Red Sun. Check that out one time. Now, this Superman is interesting because instead of his ship crash landing in America, it crash landed in Russia during the late 30s, before World War II, or right around that time. And he was raised by Stalin. And he was brought up with all the ideas and values of communism. So he becomes the Soviet Superman. And this actually triggers a reaction where Lex Luthor gets elected president in America. Because the Soviet Union had spread out. It had practically taken over most of the globe at this point, except for America. Now, Lex, of course, is obsessed with destroying Superman and him and his wife, Lois Lane. Yes, you heard me right. Lex and Lois are married in this reality. Yeah, it is a trip. So, basically, Lex is trying to do anything and everything he can to dethrone Superman. Now, Superman isn't the Superman that you know. Superman has a dark side. Superman ends up... Spoilers for a comic that came out over 10 years ago and a movie that came out over 2-3 years ago. But Superman's not exactly the goody-goody that everyone assumes that he is. He's darker, he's harder. Like I said, he was raised with Stalin. Stalin famously quoted that if you murder one person, it's murder. If you murder a million, it's a statistic. So you gotta take that with a grain of salt. Anyways, Clark ends up finding out about the work camps. He ends up, well, basically melting Stalin into dust, or, puddle of goo, depending on how hot his heat vision was. And he ends up taking over. Now, Lex really doesn't like this idea. And I'm trying to leave out a lot of stuff, but Superman ends up teaming up with a Brainiac. And they end up establishing a world order of sorts. Now, like I said, Lex was not happy about this, and neither was someone else. There is actually a Russian Batman. Check him out. He's in the back right here. He was in one of those camps that Superman liberated, but his parents were destroyed in the process. And this left this Batman with the Batman complex. And he's basically a terrorist in Russia, blowing stuff up, making statements, trying to destroy Superman from the inside. And the interesting thing is that Lex Luthor actually tries to help Batman. And the story between Wonder Woman and Superman is interesting too, because Diana ends up helping out Superman, but then she finds out that Superman isn't as good as he says he is. Like I said, this is a very fascinating story. It's a very fascinating what if. And it does have a darker shade to it, which kind of makes this world absolutely fascinating. It is set like around 50s, 60s, you know, that old time. So it kind of gives you that feel of communism in like the old Cold War. And for those of you that don't know, Russia was the Soviet Union at one point, and they were kind of like the big enemy of America for many, 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 many years until the wall was brought down. So this does tell a little history, and it was made around that time. So certain comics are a time capsule, and this is kind of one of them. And I have to say that I do love a lot of the cartoon. They adapted it fairly well. They left out a few of Superman's darker tendencies in the cartoon, but they had to edit some stuff out because it was 3 volumes of Red Sun Superman, which I've actually considered covering on this show. It's very interesting, but I understand why they cut out certain things. Another fascinating thing is that Lex Luthor is actually smart enough to get a Green Lantern ring and almost copy it. Yes, he actually copies the technology and makes a pseudo army of Green Lanterns. Like, there's a few schemes that he does to try to stop Superman. He does a clone, an army of Green Lanterns. It's very interesting. Now, of course, there's always a big fight. And that's when Brainiac, of course, it's always Brainiac. I mean, he decides to screw people over and starts destroying everything. You know, he just decides that the only way to finally have Superman's vision, because he's working with Superman, is to just destroy America completely. And so he just starts destroying everything. Superman ends up pushing Brainiac into the sun. Like I said spoilers before. And disappears. Now, the fascinating thing about this is that I seem to notice there's a pattern in this. Like in All-Star Superman, for example, that after Superman dies, a weight is lifted off of Lex's shoulders, and Lex is able to accomplish all these good things for America, for the world, everybody. And he dies with all these achievements, but the greatest achievement was always destroying Superman. And then he did all this wonderful stuff. Just food for thought. Yeah, but the animation is very sharp. The storytelling is very sharp. Yes, they took some things out from the comic, but they do that with all these animated movies. But I feel they did a decent job on this one. It gives you an idea that not everybody's good and not everybody's bad. There's a quote in the Justice League cartoons that came out a while back where Amanda Waller is talking to General Aisling, and she actually tells him, you know, maybe our enemies weren't as evil as we think we are. We think they are. And maybe we weren't as good as we thought we were. And when you're fighting a war, sometimes things get murky. And I think that was the point that Amanda Waller was trying to make in the cartoon. And it's very poignant here. Because the whole of Clark Kent exists, okay? The nook and cranny of Clark exists, where he's still trying to do the right thing. But the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And this version of Clark has to learn that lesson the hard way. That sometimes you can't force your will upon people. That it has to be earned. There's a difference between fear and hope. And this is one of the lessons that this Superman had to learn. So it's very fascinating. Like I said, this man is a different character from Clark. He has his own faults, but the core of him is still the same, just with different values. So he is Superman, just Superman with a different moral set. Like I said, fascinating. The Russian Batman, oh my god. The fight that they have, like I said, I'm trying to leave a lot of stuff out so you guys will watch it. The fight they have, true Batman planning. That's all I got to say about that. I recommend the cartoon. I recommend the series, but I know some people don't like to read now. So if you have enough time, I recommend Superman Red Son. You want a different story, you want something completely different if you're a Superman fan, even if you're a Batman fan or a fan of the Trinity. This is a nice side story. It's a good what if. Or you can't say what if, it's a good Elseworld. Well, I can say whatever the fuck I want. It's my show. And I recommend watching the cartoon. It's a fun ride. Really cool. And if you really want to take a trip on the flip side, I recommend Superman's Red Son. And as always, I'm the comic outlaw, Jack Slater, and you know where I am, and you know where you can catch me, and that's on the flip side. Yeah.